adhere to what we wrote in our report. The report contains our findings and analysis and the reasons for the decisions we made. We stated the results of our investigation with precision. I do not intend to summarize or describe the results of our work in a different way in the course of my testimony today. And as I stated in May, I also will not comment on the actions of the Attorney General or of Congress. I was appointed as a prosecutor, and I intend to adhere to that role and to the department standards that govern. Finally, as I said this morning, over the course of my career, I've seen a number of challenges to our democracy. The Russian government's efforts to interfere in our election is among the most serious. I am sure that the committee agrees. Now, before we go to questions, I want to add one correction to my testimony this morning. I want to go back to one thing that was said this morning by Mr. Liu, who said, and I quote, "You didn't charge the president because of the OLC opinion." That is not the correct way to say it. As we say in the report, and as I said at the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Director Mueller. I recognize myself for 5 minutes. Director Mueller, your report describes a sweeping and systematic effort by Russia to influence our presidential election. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And during the course of this Russian interference in the election, the Russians made outreach to the Trump campaign, did they not?
That occurred over the course of, yeah, that occurred.
It's also clear from your report that during that Russian outreach to the Trump campaign, no one associated with the Trump campaign ever called the FBI to report it. Am I right?
I don't know that for sure.
In fact, the campaign welcomed the Russian help, did they not?
I think we report in the report indications that that occurred, yes.
The president's son said when he was approached about dirt on Hillary Clinton that the Trump campaign would love it.
That is generally what was said, yes.
The president himself called on the Russians to hack Hillary's emails.
There was a statement by the president in those general lines.
And numerous times during the campaign, the president praised the releases of the Russian hacked emails through WikiLeaks.
That did occur.
Your report found that the Trump campaign planned, quote, a press strategy, communications campaign, and messaging, unquote, based on that Russian assistance.
I am not familiar with that.
That language comes from Volume 1, page 54. Apart from the Russians wanting to help Trump win, several individuals associated with the Trump campaign were also trying to make money during the campaign in transition. Is that correct?
That is true.
Paul Manafort was trying to make money or achieve debt forgiveness from a Russian oligarch.
Generally, that is accurate.
Michael Flynn was trying to make money from Turkey.
True.
Donald Trump was trying to make millions from a real estate deal in Moscow.
To the extent you're talking about the hotel in Moscow?
Yes.
Yes.
When your investigation looked into these matters, numerous Trump associates lied to your team, the grand jury, and to Congress.
Number of persons that we interviewed in our investigation, it turns out, did lie.
Mike Flynn lied.
He was convicted of lying, yes.
George Papadopoulos was convicted of lying.
True.
Paul Manafort was convicted of lying.
True.
Paul Manafort was, in fact, went so far as to encourage other people to lie.
That is accurate.
Manafort's deputy, Rick Gates, lied.
That is accurate.
Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, was indicted for lying.
True.
He lied to stay on message with the president.
Allegedly by him.
And when Donald Trump called your investigation a witch hunt, that was also false, was it not?
Like to think so, yes.
Well, your investigation is not a witch hunt, is it?
It is not a witch hunt.
When the president said the Russian interference was a hoax, that was false, wasn't it?
True.
When he said it publicly, it was false.
Yes. Help me, because this is a huge TV for my bedroom.
That's false, yes.
And when he told it to
Give me
Putin,
that little
that
hand.
was false too, wasn't it?
I got that. Remember I
When the
told you
president
when I tell
said
you
he had no
60
business
inch,
dealings with
55?
Russia, that was false,
When I
wasn't it?
tell you,
I'm not going to go into the details of the report that along those lines.
But when the where the president said he had no business dealings with Russia. In fact, he was seeking to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, was he not?
I think there is some question about when this was
You guys bring it upstairs?
accomplished.
You would consider a billion-dollar deal to build a tower in Moscow to be business dealings?
I knew I couldn't get it upstairs.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at you.
The short
See, I'm
investigation found
63, I'm
evidence that
jealous.
Russia wanted to help Trump win the election, right?
I think generally.
No, I can't. I'm proud of you.
Russia informed campaign officials of that.
Come on, upstairs for me.
I'm not sure what conversations you're referring to.
The foreign intermediary informed Papadopoulos that they could help with the anonymous release of stolen emails.
Back anywhere.
Russia committed federal crimes in order to help Donald Trump.
When you're talking about computer crimes in charge in our case, absolutely.
The Trump campaign officials built their strategy, their messaging strategy around those stolen documents,
Generally, that's true.
and then they lied to cover it up.
Generally, that's true.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes.
Thank you. Welcome, Director. As a former FBI director, you would agree that the FBI is the world's most capable law enforcement agency.
I would say yes.
I just gotta get a picture of it, all right?
The intelligence investigation of the Trump campaign began on July 31st, 2016. But in fact, it began before that. In June 2016, before the investigation officially opened,
The
Trump
photo
campaign
already?
officials
I'm watching, but I got up at 4:30.
Is that right?
Yeah, 'cause I just had to watch it.
At Cambridge
I've
University
been
in
wanting,
July
I've
of
been wanting to watch it, but I'm
2016.
working.
I know you guys gotta get this, and it's gonna get hotter and hotter next week.
All right.
Inviting
God bless us.
associates to
All
the
right now.
symposium.
I need to sign in.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
Investigators also
right
failed to interview Stephen Schrage, an American citizen who helped organize the event and invited Carter Page to it. Is that correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Whether or not you interviewed Stephen Schrage and organized the Cambridge.
In those areas, I am going to stay away from.
The first Trump associate to be investigated was General Flynn. Many of the allegations against him stem from false media reports that he had an affair
Sorry, you guys
with a
had
Cambridge
delivery.
academic, Svetlana Lokova, and that Lokova was a Russian spy. Some of these allegations were made public in a 2017 article written by British intelligence historian Christopher Andrew. The report fails to reveal how or why Andrew and his collaborator, Richard Dearlove, former head of Britain's MI6, spread these
I
allegations.
can't stand Devin Nunes. He's such
And you
a
failed to interview
punk ass
Svetlana Lokova
piece of
about
shit.
these matters. Is that correct?
I'm not going to get into those matters to which you
Kiss ass.
refer.
You had a team of 19 lawyers, 40 agents, and an unlimited budget, correct, Mr. Mueller?
I would not say we had an unlimited budget.
Let's continue with the ongoing, or the opening of the investigation supposedly on July 31st, 2016. The investigation was not opened based on an official product from Five Eyes Intelligence, but based on a rumor conveyed by Alexander Downer. On volume 1, page 89, the report describes him blandly as a representative of a foreign government. But he was actually a long-time Australian politician, not a military or intelligence official, who had previously arranged a $25 million donation to the Clinton Foundation and has previous ties to Dearlove. So Downer conveys a rumor he supposedly heard about a conversation between Papadopoulos and Joseph Mifsud. James Comey has publicly called Mifsud a Russian agent, yet your report does not refer to Mifsud as a Russian agent. Mifsud has extensive contacts with Western governments and the FBI. For example, there is a recent photo of him standing next to Boris Johnson, the new Prime Minister of Great Britain. What we're trying to figure out here, Mr. Mueller, is if our NATO allies or Boris Johnson have been compromised. So we're trying to figure out, Comey says Mifsud is a Russian agent, you do not. So do you stand by what's in the report?
I stand by that which is in the report and not so necessarily with that which is not in the report.
I want to return to Mr. Downer. He denies that Papadopoulos mentioned anything to him about Hillary Clinton's emails, and in fact, Mifsud denies mentioning to them that to Papadopoulos.
Hillary Clinton again, Lord,
Denies that
jeez.
Papadopoulos mentioned anything to him about Hillary
Jeez.
Clinton's emails. And in fact, Mifsud denies mentioning them to Papadopoulos in the first place.
We back Hillary
So
again?
how does the FBI know to continually ask Papadopoulos about Clinton's emails for the rest of 2016?
He's not gonna comment, asshole.
Even more strangely, your sentencing memo on Papadopoulos
He
blames
doesn't
him for
sentence
hindering
people.
The FBI's
Judges
ability to
sentence
potentially
people.
detain or arrest Mifsud.
Oh, you're an idiot.
But the truth is, Mifsud waltzed in and out of the United States in December 2016.
Is that
The
the
U.S. media
music?
could find him, the Italian press found
That
him,
real wall?
and he's a supposed Russian
Maybe he
agent
hip-hop
at the
kid.
epicenter of the purported collusion conspiracy. He's the guy who knows about Hillary Clinton's emails and what the
No,
Russians
that-
have. But the FBI failed to question him
Hillary Clinton's emails.
after officially opening the investigation. And then according to volume 1, page 193 of your report,
Lord.
once Mifsud finally was questioned, he made false statements to the FBI.
Back to Hillary.
But you declined to charge him. Is that correct? You did not?
Part
indict
two.
Mr. Mifsud?
I'm not going to speak to the series of happenings as you articulate them.
But you did not indict Mr.
The time of the
Mifsud?
gentleman has expired.
Pardon?
You did not indict Mr. Mifsud?
True.
Mr. Himes.
Director Mueller, thank you for your lifetime of service to this country and thank you for your perseverance and patience today. Director, your report opens with two statements of remarkable clarity and power. The first statement is one that is, as of today, not acknowledged by the President of the United States, and that is, quote, the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. The second statement remains controversial amongst members of this body, same page on your report, and I quote, the Russian government perceived it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome. Do I have that statement right?
I believe so.
Director Mueller, this attack on our democracy involved, as you said, two operations. First, a social media disinformation campaign. This was a targeted campaign to spread false information on places like Twitter and Facebook. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Facebook estimated, as per your report, that the Russian fake images reached 126 million people. Is that correct?
I believe that's a summary report.
Director, who did the Russian social media campaign ultimately intend to benefit? Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
The second operation,
I'm
Director,
going to say Donald Trump, but there were instances where Hillary Clinton was subject to much the same behavior.
the second operation in the Russian attack was a scheme, what we call the hack and dump, to steal and release hundreds of thousands of emails from the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign. Is that a fair summary?
That is,
Did your investigation find that the releases of the hacked emails were strategically timed to maximize impact on the election?
I'd have to refer you to our report on that question.
Page 36, I quote, the release of the documents was designed in time to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Mr. Mueller, which presidential candidate was Russia's hacking and dumping operation designed to benefit? Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
Mr. Trump.
Mr. Mueller, is it possible that this sweeping and systematic effort by Russia actually had an effect on the outcome of the presidential election?
Those issues are being, or have been, investigated by other entities.
126 million Facebook impressions, fake rallies, attacks on Hillary Clinton's health. Would you rule out that it might have had some effect on the election?
I'm not going to speculate.
Mr. Mueller, your report describes a third avenue of attempted Russian interference. That is the numerous links and contacts between the Trump campaign and individuals tied to the Russian government. Is that correct?
Could you repeat that question?
Your report describes what is called a third avenue of Russian interference, and that's the links and contacts between the Trump campaign and individuals tied to the Russian government.
Yes.
Let's bring up slide 1, which is about George Papadopoulos, and it reads, on May 6, 2016, 10 days after that meeting with Mifsud, much discussed today, Papadopoulos suggested to a representative of a foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information that would be damaging to Hillary Clinton. And Director, that's exactly what happened 2 months later, is it not?
I can speak to the excerpt that you have on the screen as being accurate from the report, but not the second half of your question.
Well, the second half, just to refer to page 6 of the report, is that on July 22nd, through WikiLeaks, thousands of these emails that were stolen by the Russian government appeared, correct? That's on page 6 of the report. This is the WikiLeaks posting of those emails.
I can't find it quickly, but please continue.
Okay. So just to be clear, before the public or the FBI ever knew, the Russians previewed for a Trump campaign official, George Papadopoulos, that they had stolen emails that they could release anonymously to help Donald Trump and hurt Hillary Clinton. Is that correct?
I'm not going to speak to that.
Director, rather than report this contact with Joseph Mueller
Started.
and the notion that there
4:30.
was dirt that the campaign could use, rather than report that to the FBI that I think most of my constituents would expect an individual to do, Papadopoulos in fact lied about his Russian contacts to you. Is that not correct?
It's true.
We have an election coming up in 2020, Director. If a campaign receives an offer of dirt from a foreign individual or a government, generally speaking, should that campaign report those contacts?
Should be, and can be, depending on the circumstances of crime.
I will yield back the balance of the time.
Mr. Conway.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, did anyone ask you to exclude anything from your report that you felt should have been in the report?
I don't think so, but it's not a small report.
But no one asked you specifically to exclude something that you believe should have been in there? That you
Not that I can recall, no.
able to bounce my time and
Hey, Brenda.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. Good afternoon, Director Mueller. In your May 29th press conference and again in your opening remarks this morning, you made it pretty clear you wanted the special counsel report to speak for itself. You said at your press conference that that was the office's final position and we will not comment on any other conclusions or hypotheticals about the president. Now, you spent the last few hours of your life from Democrats trying to get you to answer all kinds of hypotheticals about the president, and I expect that it may continue for the next few hours of your life. I think you've stayed pretty much true to what your intent and desire was, but I guess regardless of that, the special counsel's office is closed and it has no continuing jurisdiction or authority, so what would be your authority or jurisdiction for adding new conclusions or determinations to the special counsel's written report?
As to the latter, I don't know or expect a change in the conclusions that we included
I don't know, that's a weird
in
question.
our report.
So to that point, you addressed one of the issues that I needed to, which was from your testimony this morning, which some construed as a change to the written report. You talked about the exchange that you had with Congressman Lieu. I wrote it down a little bit different. I want to ask you about it so that the record's perfectly clear. I reported that he asked you,
This is where it
quote,
backfires
"The reason
on them all the
not to indict
time.
Donald Trump is because of the OLC opinion stating you cannot indict a sitting president," to which you responded, "That is correct." That response is inconsistent. I think you'll agree with your written report. I want to be clear that it is not your intent to change your written report. It is your intent to clarify the record today.
As I started today, this afternoon, and added either a footnote or an endnote, what I want to clarify is the fact that we did not make any determination with regard to culpability. In any way, we did not start that process down the road.
Terrific. Thank you for clarifying the record. A stated purpose of your appointment as special counsel was to ensure a full and thorough investigation of the Russian government efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. As part of that full and thorough investigation, what determination did the special counsel office make about whether the Steele dossier was part of the Russian government efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election?
Again, when it comes to Mr. Steele, I defer to the Department of Justice.
Well, first of all, Director, I very much agree with your determination that Russia's efforts were sweeping and systematic. I think it should concern every American. That's why I want to know just how sweeping and systematic those efforts were. I want to find out if Russia interfered with our election by providing false information through sources to Christopher Steele about a Trump conspiracy that you determined didn't exist.
Again, I'm not going to discuss the issues with regard to Mr. Steele and in terms of a portrayal of the conspiracies. We returned 2 indictments in the computer crimes arena, one GRU and another active measures in which we lay out in excruciating detail what occurred.
He seems to be a little bit more sharp at this time. Maybe
I agree
we
with
would get
respect to that, but what
have his
is
coffee.
important is
bagel.
an application and 3 renewal applications were submitted by the United States government to spy or surveil on Trump campaign Carter Associate, or Carter Page, and on all 4 occasions, the United States government submitted the Steele dossier as a central piece of evidence with respect to that.
He already said he's not talking about the Steele dossier, asshole. Jeez, these guys are lawyers, half of them.
Between the Trump campaign and the Russian government, but the
Jeez.
special counsel investigation didn't establish any conspiracy, correct?
Well, what I can tell you is that the events that you are characterizing here now is part of another matter that is being handled by the Department of Justice.
But you did not establish any conspiracy, much less a well-developed one.
Again, I pass on answering that question.
The special counsel did not charge Carter Page with anything, correct?
Special counsel did not.
All right. My time has expired. I yield back. Ms. Sewell.
Director Mueller, I'd like to turn your attention to the June 9th, 2016.
Here come the sisters.
Slide 2, which should be on the screen now, is part of an email chain between Donald Trump Jr. and a publicist representing the son of a Russian oligarch. The email exchange ultimately led to the now infamous June 9th, 2016 meeting. The email from the publicist to Donald Trump Jr. reads in part, "The Crown Prosecutor of Russia offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and is a part of Russia and its government's support of Mr. Trump." In this email, Donald Trump Jr. is being told that the Russian government wants to pass
Donald Trump Jr.
Hillary Clinton.
Bring some Astroglide.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, Trump Jr.'s response to that email is slide 3. He said, and I quote, "If it is what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer." Then Donald
He's
Jr.
gonna look so cute in those
invited
prison
senior
issues.
campaign officials Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner to the meeting, did he not?
He did.
This email exchange is evidence of an offer of illegal assistance, is it not?
I cannot adopt that characterization.
But isn't it against the law for a presidential campaign to accept anything of value from a foreign government?
Generally speaking, yes, but generally the cases are unique.
Well, you say in page 184 on volume 1 that the federal campaign finance law broadly prohibits foreign nationals from making contributions, etc. And then you say that foreign nationals may not make a contribution or donation of money or anything of value. It says clearly in the report itself.
Thank you.
Now, let's turn to what actually happened at the meeting. When Donald Trump Jr. and the others got to the
Hi,
June
Tracy.
meeting, they realized that the Russian delegation didn't
Hey,
have the
Linda.
promised quote-unquote dirt. In fact, they got upset about that, did they not?
Generally, yes.
You say in volume 1, page 118, that Trump Jr. asked, what are we doing here? What do they have on Clinton? And during the meeting, Kushner actually texted Manafort saying it was, quote, a waste of time, end quote. Is that correct?
I believe it's in the report along the lines you specified.
So to be clear, top Trump campaign officials learned that Russia wanted to help Donald Trump's campaign by giving him dirt on his opponent. Trump Jr. said loved it. Then he and senior officials held a meeting with the Russians to try to get that Russian help. But they were disappointed because the dirt wasn't as good as they had hoped. So to the next step, did anyone, to your knowledge, in the Trump campaign ever tell the FBI of this offer?
I don't believe so.
Did Donald Trump Jr. tell the FBI that they received an offer of help from the Russians?
That's about all I'll say on this aspect of it.
Wouldn't it be sure, sir, that if they had reported it to the FBI or anyone in that campaign during the course of your 2-year investigation, you would have uncovered such a...
I would hope, yes.
Yes. Sir, is it not the responsibility of political campaigns to inform the FBI if they receive information from a foreign government?
I would think that that's something they would and should do.
Well, not only did the campaign not tell the FBI, they sought to hide the existence of the June 9th meeting for over a year. Is that not correct?
On the general characterization, I would question it. If you're referring to later initiative that flowed from the media, then...
No, what I'm suggesting is that you've said in volume 2, page 5, on several occasions the president directed aides not to publicly disclose the email setting up the June 9th meeting.
Yes, that's accurate.
Thanks. Sir, given this illegal assistance by the Russians, you chose, even given that, you did not charge Donald Trump Jr. or any of the other senior officials with conspiracy, is that right?
Correct.
And while it
When
may
you're
not...
talking about, if you're talking about other individuals, you're talking about the attendees.
Yes, that's
of
right.
June 9, and
That's right.
accurate.
So, Mr. Mueller, even though you didn't charge them with conspiracy, don't you think that the American people would be concerned that these 3 senior campaign officials eagerly sought a foreign adversary's help to win elections? And don't you think that reporting that is important, that we don't set a precedent for future elections?
I can't accept that characterization.
Well, listen, I think that it seems like a betrayal of American values to me, sir, that someone with, if not being criminal, is definitely unethical and wrong. And I would think that we would not want to set a precedent that political campaigns should not divulge of information if it's foreign government's assistance. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Turner. Mr. Mueller, I have your opening statement, and in the beginning of your opening statement, you indicate that pursuant to Justice Department regulations, that you submitted a confidential report to the Attorney General at the conclusion of the investigation. What I'd like you to confirm is the report that you did, that is the subject matter of this hearing, was to the Attorney General.
Yes.
Now, you also state in this opening statement that you threw overboard the word collusion because it's not a legal term. You would not conclude because collusion is not a legal term.
It depends on how you want to use the word. In the general parlance, people can think of it that way, but if you're talking about in the criminal statute arena, you can't, because it really is much more accurately described as conspiracy.
Right, so your words are it's not a legal term, so you didn't put it in your conclusion, correct? That's what you're
That's right.
Mr. Mueller, I want to talk about your powers and authorities. Now, the Attorney General in the appointment order gave you powers and authorities that reside in the Attorney General. Now, the Attorney General has no ability to give you powers and authority greater than the powers and authority of the Attorney General, correct?
No, I don't believe, I think that is correct.
Ms. Mueller, I want to focus on one word in your report. It's the second to the last word in the report. It's exonerate. The report states, accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it does not exonerate him. Now, in the judiciary hearing, in your prior testimony, you've already agreed with Mr. Ratcliffe that exonerate is not a legal term, that there is not a legal test for this. So I have a question for you, Mr. Mueller. Mr. Mueller, does the Attorney General have the power or authority to exonerate? What I'm putting up here is the United States Code. This is where the Attorney General gets his power, and the Constitution, and the annotated cases of these, which we've searched. We even went to your law school, because I went to Case Western, but I thought maybe your law school teaches it differently, and we got the criminal law textbook from your law school. Mr. Mueller, nowhere in these, because we have them scanned, is there a process or description on exonerate? There's no office of exoneration at the Attorney General's office. There's no certificate at the bottom of his desk. Mr. Mueller, would you agree with me that the Attorney General does not have the power to exonerate?
I'm going to pass on that.
Why?
Because it embroils us in a legal discussion. I'm not prepared to do a legal discussion in that arena.
Well, Mr. Mueller, you would not disagree with me when I say that there is no place that the Attorney General has the power to exonerate, and he's not been given that authority. You would not.
Yeah, I'm not going. I take your question.
Great. Well, the one thing that I guess is that the Attorney General probably knows that he can't exonerate either. And that's the part that kind of confuses me. Because if the Attorney General doesn't have the power to exonerate, then you don't have the power to exonerate, and I believe he knows he doesn't have the power to exonerate. And so this is the part that I don't understand. If your report is to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General doesn't have the power to exonerate, and he does not, and he knows that you do not have that power, you don't have to tell him that you're not exonerating the president. He knows this already. So then that kind of changed the context of the report.
No, we included in the report for exactly that reason. He may not know it, and he should know it.
So you believe that the Attorney Bill Barr believes that somewhere in the hallways of the Department of Justice there's an Office of Exoneration?
No, that's not what I said.
But I believe he knows, and I don't believe you put that in there for Mr. Barr. I think you put that in there for exactly what I'm going to discuss next. And that is, so the Washington Post yesterday, when speaking of your report, the article said Trump could not be exonerated of trying to obstruct the investigation itself. Trump could not be exonerated. Now that statement is correct, Mr. Mueller, isn't it? In that no one can be exonerated? The reporter wrote this, that this reporter can't be exonerated. Mr. Mueller, you can't be exonerated. In fact, in our criminal justice system, there is no power or authority to exonerate. Now this is my concern, Mr. Mueller.
So then why did the president claim he was exonerated? See, that's what's so amazing. But the president claimed he was exonerated.
Mr. Mueller, what you know is that this
It's
can't
amazing.
say
It's just amazing.
exonerated Trump. Because you don't have the power or authority to exonerate Trump. You have no more power to declare him exonerated than you have the power to declare him Anderson Cooper.
So why did the president say that?
Here is that since there's no one in the criminal justice system that has a power, the president pardons, he doesn't exonerate, courts and juries
And why did
don't
Barr
declare
say-
innocent, they declare not guilty. They don't even declare exoneration.
No.
The statement about exoneration is misleading, and it's meaningless, and it colors this investigation one word out of the entire portion of your report, and it's a meaningless word that has no legal meaning, and it has colored your entire report.
The gentleman is expired. Mr. Carson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director Mueller, for your years of service to our country. I want to look more closely, sir, at the Trump campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, an individual who I believe betrayed our country, who lied to a grand jury, who tampered with witnesses, and who
Hey there,
refused
RJ.
to use his position with the Trump campaign to make more money. Let's focus on the betrayal and greed. Your investigation, sir, found a number of troubling contacts between Mr. Manafort and Russian individuals during and after the campaign. Is that right, sir?
Correct.
In addition to the June 9th meeting just discussed, Manafort also met several times with a man named Konstantin Clement, who the FBI assessed to have ties with Russian intel agencies. Is that right, sir?
Correct.
In fact, Mr. Manafort didn't just meet with him, he shared private Trump campaign polling information with this man linked to Russian intelligence. Is that right, sir?
That is correct.
And in turn, the information was shared with a Russian oligarch tied to Vladimir Putin. Is that right, sir?
Allegedly.
Director Mueller, meeting with him wasn't enough. Sharing internal polling information wasn't enough. Mr. Manafort went so far as to offer this Russian oligarch.
Let's see if the president's tweeted
a
any
private
times.
briefing on the campaign. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
And finally, Mr. Manafort also discussed internal campaign strategy on 4 battleground states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota, with the Russian intelligence-linked individual. Did he not, sir?
And that's reflected in the report as were the items you listed previously.
Director Mueller, based on your decades of years of experience at the FBI, would you agree, sir, that it creates a national security risk when a presidential campaign chairman shares private polling information on the American people?
He's not gonna.
Private political strategy related to winning the votes of the American people, and private information about American battleground states with a foreign adversary.
Is that the question, sir?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to speculate along those lines. To the extent that it's within the lines of the report, then I support it. Anything beyond that is not part of that which I would support.
Well, I think it does, sir. I think it shows an infuriating lack of patriotism from the very people seeking the highest office in the land. Director Mueller, Manafort didn't share this information in exchange for nothing, did he, sir?
I can't answer that question without knowing more about the question.
Well, it's clear that he hoped to be paid back the money he was owed by Russia Russian or Ukrainian oligarchs in return for the passage of private campaign information.
That is true.
Director Mueller, as my colleague Mr. Heck will discuss later, greed corrupts. Would you agree, sir, that the sharing of private campaign information in exchange for money represents a particular kind of corruption, one that presents a national security risk to our country, sir?
I'm not going to opine on that. I don't have the expertise in that arena to really opine.
Would you agree, sir, that Manafort's contacts with Russian close to Vladimir Putin and his efforts to exchange private information on Americans for money left him vulnerable to blackmail by the Russians?
I think generally so, that would be the case.
Would you agree, sir, these acts demonstrated a betrayal of the democratic values of our country rests on?
I can't agree with that.
Director Mueller?
Not that it's not true, but I cannot agree with it.
Yes, sir. Director Mueller, well, I can tell you that in my years of experience as a law enforcement officer and as a member of Congress,
Hey, Warner.
I'm fortunate to serve on the Intel Committee. I know enough to say yes.
What's happening, my brother?
Trading political secrets for money with a foreign adversary can corrupt, and it can leave you open to blackmail, and it certainly represents a betrayal of the values underpinning our democracy. I want to thank you for your service again, Director Mueller. We appreciate you for coming today. I yield back.
I think this has been, contrary to what MSNBC commentators, I found this whole process today to be very important and credible. I'm not sure what they were looking for.
That members of the Trump campaign were involved in the theft or publication of Clinton campaign-related emails.
Can you read, or can you repeat the question?
Is it accurate to say your investigation found no evidence that members of the Trump campaign were involved in the theft or publication of the Clinton campaign-related emails?
I don't know. What they,
Well, Volume 1, page 5, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. So it would therefore be inaccurate, based on this, to describe that finding as open to doubt, that finding being that the Trump campaign was involved with theft or publication of the Clinton campaign emails. You following that?
So I do believe I'm following it, but it is that portion of that matter does not fall within our jurisdiction, or fall within our investigation.
Well, basically, what your report says, Volume 1, page 5. I just want to be clear that open to doubt is how the committee Democrats described this finding in their minority views to our 2018 report. And it kind of flies in the face of what you have in your report. But so is it accurate also to say the investigation found no documentary evidence that George Papadopoulos told anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign about Joseph Mifsud's claims that the Russians had dirt on candidate Clinton?
Let me turn that over to Mr. Zebel.
I'd like to ask you, sir, this is your report, and that's what I'm basing this on.
And then could you repeat the question for me again?
Yeah, is it accurate to say the investigation found no documentary evidence that George Papadopoulos told anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign about Joseph Mifsud's claims that the Russians had dirt on candidate Clinton?
I believe it appearing in the report is accurate.
Okay, so in the report, it says no documentary evidence that Papadopoulos shared this information with the campaign. It's therefore inaccurate to conclude that by the time of the June 9, 2016 Trump Tower meeting, quote, the campaign was likely already on notice via George Papadopoulos' contact with Russian agents that Russia, in fact, had damaging information on Trump's opponent. Would you say that is inaccurate to say that it's likely already?
I could direct you to the report.
Well, I appreciate that, because the Democrats jumped to this incorrect collusion in their minority views, again, which contradicts what you have in your report. I'm concerned about a number of statements I'd like you to clarify, because a number of Democrats have made some statements that I have concerns with, and maybe you can clear them up. So a member of this committee said President Trump was a Russian agent after your report was publicly released. That statement is not supported by your report, correct?
That is accurate. not supported.
Multiple Democrat members have asserted that Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange in 2016 before WikiLeaks released DNC emails implying Manafort colluded with Assange. Because your report does not mention finding evidence that Manafort met with Assange, I would assume that means you found no evidence of this meeting. Is that assumption correct?
I'm not sure that I agree with that assumption.
But you make no mention of it in your report. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, Mr. Mueller, does your report contain any evidence that President Trump was enrolled in the Russian system of Committe as a member of this committee once claimed?
What I can speak to is information, evidence that we picked up as the special counsel, and I think that's accurate as far as it goes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's go for a second to scope. Did you ask the Department of Justice to expand the scope of the special counsel's mandate related to August 2nd, 2017 or August 20th, 2017 scoping memoranda?
Well, without looking at the memoranda, I cannot answer that.
Well, let me ask you, did you ever make a request to expand your office's mandate at all?
Generally, yes.
And was that ever denied?
I'm not to speak to that. It goes without internal deliberation.
Well, I'm just trying to understand process. Does expanding the scope come from the acting attorney general or Rosenstein, or does it come from you, or can it come from either?
I'm not going to discuss any other alternatives.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Ms. Spear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, David.
Mr. Mueller, I think I can say without fear of contradiction that you're the greatest patriot in this room today, and I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You said in your report, and I'm going to quibble with your words, that the Russian intervention was sweeping and systematic. I would quibble with that because I don't think it was just an intervention, I think it was an invasion. And I don't think it was just sweeping and systematic, I think it was sinister and scheming. And having said that, one of my colleagues earlier here referred to this Russian intervention as a hoax. And I'd like to get your comment on that. On page 26 of your report, you talk about the Internet Research Agency and how tens of millions of U.S. persons became engaged with
not a witch hunt,
that they made, that there were some
not a
80,000
hoax. Where's the
posts
president?
on Facebook.
No tweets.
Facebook itself admitted
I'm
that
still waiting.
6 million people have probably seen the posts that were put up by the
Been
Internet
over,
Research Agency,
spent some hours.
that they had
The president's mum.
and had designed more than 175,000 tweets that probably
Hey,
reached
Donald, you ain't got
1.4
shit to
million
say.
people. The
Oh,
Internet Research
Donald, is that
Agency
the
was
taste
spending
of
$1.25
embarrassment
billion
in your
a month
mouth stuck between your
on
teeth?
all of this social media
Oh,
in
Melania's
the United States,
choking too.
in what I would call an invasion in our country. Would you agree that it was not a hoax, that the Russians were engaged in trying to impact our election?
Absolutely. That was not a hoax. The indictments were returned against the Russians, 2 different ones were substantial in their scope, using that scope word again. And I think one of we have underplayed to
Ooh-wee.
that aspect of our investigation that has and would have long-term damage to the United States.
Thank you.
that we need
No
to move
hoax.
quickly to address.
Thank you for that. I'd like to drill down
No
on
witch
that a
hunt.
little bit more.
Just a bitch hunt.
Internet Research Agency actually started in 2014 by sending over staff as tourists, I guess, to start looking at where they wanted to engage. And there are many that suggest, and I'm interested in your opinion, as to whether or not Russia is presently in the United States looking for ways to impact the 2020 election.
I can't speak to that. That would be in levels of classification.
All right. Let me ask you this. Oftentimes when we engage in these hearings, we forget the forest for the trees. You have a very large report here of over 400 pages. Most Americans have not read it. We have read it. Actually, the FBI director yesterday said he hadn't read it, which was a little discouraging. But on behalf of the American people, I want to give you a minute and 39 seconds to tell the American people what you would like them to glean from this report.
Well, we spent substantial time assuring the integrity of the report, understanding that it would be a living message to those who come after us. But it also is a signal and flag to those of us who have some responsibility in this area to exercise those responsibilities swiftly and don't let this problem continue to linger as it has over so many years.
All right, you didn't take the whole amount of time, so I'm going to yield the rest of my time to the chairman.
I thank the gentleman for yielding.
Yeah, buddy.
Director Mueller, I wanted to ask you about conspiracy. Generally, a conspiracy requires an offer of something illegal, the acceptance of that offer, and an overt act in furtherance of it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Really?
And Don Jr. was made aware that the Russians were offering dirt on his opponent, correct?
I don't know that for sure, but I would assume, given the presence at the meeting.
And when you say that you would love to get that help, that would constitute the acceptance of the offer?
It's a wide open request.
And it would certainly be evidence of acceptance if you say, when somebody offers you something illegal, you say, I would love it, that would be considered evidence of acceptance.
And we stay away from any addressing one particular.
Oh, usually they didn't make you wait for an
In
appointment.
this particular situation, well, I'll have to continue in a bit. Now yield to Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Mueller, it's been a long day. Thank you for being here. I do have a series of important questions for you, but before I do that, I want to take a moment to emphasize something that my friend Mr. Turner has said. I've heard many people state no person.
Yeah,
is
because
above law.
man,
And
every time I go in there, they tell me 90 minutes if I wait. I have to go sit and eat.
To most of us.
I'm having a little problem hearing you, sir.
Is this better?
Yeah, like 2 hours sometime. I usually have to go do something, run errands and come back. Yeah,
But there's
thank you.
another principle we
Wonderful.
also have to defend, and that is the presumption of innocence. And I'm sure you agree with this principle. Though
Yeah.
I think
No,
the way
no.
that your office phrased some parts of the report, it does make me wonder. I have to be honest with you. For going on 3 years, innocent people have been accused of very serious crimes, including treason. Accusations made even here today. They have had their lives disrupted and in some cases destroyed by false accusations for which there is absolutely no basis other than some people desperately wish that it was so. But your
That's
report is
right.
very clear. No evidence of
Correct.
conspiracy, no evidence of
Lucky
coordination.
you.
And I believe we owe it to these people who have been falsely accused, including the president and his family, to make that very clear. Mr. Mueller, the credibility of the report is based on the integrity of how it
Yeah,
was
they
done.
commented on
And
that.
it's something
See,
that
I must admit, I want you to know, I looked at
It's like
MSNBC, I have a totally different take on the whole thing than they do, which is interesting. I actually think it's been an effective testimony. They're talking about how they made the same points that I did, but in a different priority. I guess they really wanted a spectacle. And what I liked was the specific points of reference. He made a specific point that it was no hoax. Russia interfered with the election. They did it to help Trump. All those are specific points that were specific and validated. So everything that I wanted came out of it. It's been a good job. I have a totally different view of it than MSNBC. So, and I've been watching everything. I didn't recognize that part 2 was going to start that fast. So I had jumped up to make up the bed and wash some dishes real quick, and then there it was. Part 2 started, but he's much better in part 2. The Republicans are much more constrained in part 2. This maybe because I'm not sure why that is, because of the Intelligence Committee, but certainly he did a good job. He specifically, based on the kinds of questions they asked him, again, they were very good at points of the specific asking about what the Russians did, who they helped, who lied, blah, blah, blah. And he got it to indicate people lied. He said people lied. He said a bunch of people were prosecuted for lying. He documented instances where the Russians were involved. And so I found the whole thing very informative and helpful. So it's been definitely worth it to me. I can say I've been up since 4:30, and all I can tell you is I'm glad. That's all I can say. I'm glad. And how do I tell people? Do I sound tired? No. I said I'm taking in everything and a certain level of enthusiasm because it's history in the making. I think it's very important, and again, I think he's a hero. I think he's struggling against his own health issues, and I get it. I get it now. Everything, at least that makes sense to me. You know, you can still know you're the best person for the job. You know what I'm saying? You're like, hey, with one arm down, I'm still the best motherfucker around for this. You know, so I just had to go slow.
Do you know anyone who anonymously made claims to the press that Attorney General Barr's March 24th letter to Congress had been misrepresented or misrepresented the basis of your report?
What was the question?
Do you know who anonymously made claims to the press that Attorney General Barr's March 24th letter to Congress had misrepresented the findings?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
So give me these examples. As
Yeah,
well as
that's.
others. You must realize at least we're coming from someone associated with the special counsel's office. What I'd like to ask is that. Well, sir, this was your work. You're the only one, your office is the only one who had
Exactly.
information regarding this that had to come from your office.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which leads me to my final question. Did you do anything about it?
From the outset, we've undertaken to make sure that we minimize the possibility of leaks. And I think we were successful.
Well, that's the part you see because one thing that's true of both sides, the questions are super long and the answers are short. The questions are long. I'm like, even for both of them, are you going to get to a question? Are you going to get to a question? It's all a statement. And so, okay, both of them, the Democrats slightly less so, but still they both do that. And so,
This morning, you were asked, could a president be indicted?
exactly.
Service, right?
On both sides.
Yes.
And your answer was that.
Right, just ask the question.
Director, please speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry, thank you.
So,
They could.
Yeah.
the follow-up question that should be concerning is, what if a president serves beyond the statute of limitations?
Exactly. And so you see they give them 5 minutes, right? But I swear some of them talk for 4 minutes before they ask the question.
Who serves a second
I'm
term
like,
is
geez.
therefore under the policy of
Right.
law.
I'm not certain I would agree with the conclusion.
Devin Nunes was the first Republican. Okay, so he does the intro for the part 2, right? He does the intro, which is long again, his too. See, once again, his is long. If you're other side, you don't like that. And then Devin Nunes comes back with a whole long, drawn out thing. And so, like I said, so they both did it. The intro, which was Schumer, then going to Devin Nunes. And so by the time both of them were done, you were like, oh, God. You know, oh, God. You know, like,
The emails, whether or not that was the case.
so, yeah, but it's, you know, like I said, I've been watching it all day and I'm glad. And I managed to make it work good with my split screen. So, I'm glad. I'm glad I watched all of it. I'm glad I watched everything.
Publishing of this information, would it not?
I'm not certain I would agree with that.
Director Pompeo assessed WikiLeaks at one point as a hostile intelligence service. Given your law enforcement experience and your knowledge of what WikiLeaks did
Oh, yeah.
here and what
Yeah.
they do generally,
If it matters to you, there's certainly enough, right? But, you know, people they've decided they don't care.
And they are currently under indictment. It was doing an assignment.
but would it be fair to describe them as, you would agree with this Director Pompeo?
Well,
because that's when he.
Well, certain states, I think, now I don't know how that'll be certainly contested in courts, I guess, but certain states have now enacted laws saying to enter their primaries, you have to do X, Y, Z. California is one of them, and New York is another one. So, but there's some other states where they're making that. I just don't know how it's enforced, because it looked to me like, from what California was saying, Trump could not be in a California primary for the 2020 election. Now, I don't know how enforceable that is, but that's what it looked like in California already, that we passed whatever the measure was, that you have to do this. I'll Google it at some point, but it was something like that. And New York has something similar too. A few other places, but I don't know how enforceable that is.
In terms of what it's supposed this way, in terms of giving some, I don't know, hope or some boost to what is and should be illegal activity.
Volume 1, page 59.
Right.
Donald Trump Jr. had direct electronic communications with WikiLeaks during the campaign period. On October 3rd, 2016, WikiLeaks sent another direct message to Trump Jr. asking you guys to help disseminate a link alleging candidate Clinton had advocated a drone to attack.
It sounds familiar.
Trump Jr. responded that, quote, he had already done so. Same question. This behavior, at the very least...
There's only a certain place, there's only a little strip right up there when you go above Wilshire.
Could it be described as
Yeah,
to a hostile intelligence service, sir?
I wouldn't categorize them with any specificity.
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
I yield the balance to the chairman, please.
I'm sure I can make good use of 27 seconds, but Director, I think you made it clear that you think it unethical, to put it politely,
that's in there.
to tout a foreign
That's what's in
service like WikiLeaks.
That's totally in there.
Stolen political
That's
documents
certainly in there.
presidential campaign.
Certainly call for investigation.
Thank you, Director.
It's already getting better as they're getting out the way.
Mr. Crawford's 5 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mueller, for being here. Days after your appointment, Peter Strzok texted about his concern that there's, quote, no big there in the Trump campaign investigation. Did Strzok or anyone else who worked on the FBI's investigation tell you that around 10 months into the investigation, the FBI still had no case for collusion?
Who? Can you repeat that?
Peter Strzok.
I'm sorry, can you move the microphone a little closer?
Sure, there's a quote attributed to Peter Strzok. He texted about his concern that there is, quote, no big there in the Trump campaign investigation. Did he or anyone else who worked on the FBI's investigation tell you that around 10 months into the investigation, the FBI still had...
Yeah, that's going to be... I can't wait. First of all, just so you know, Trump hasn't said shit. He did a retweet. He retweeted, okay, 2 hours ago. No, it's not even 2 hours ago, because this is I have to refresh this. He did one before everything started, saying Mueller was asked whether or not the investigation was impeded anyway. He said no. In other words, there was no obstruction. Since then, he's retweeted 2 other people. But to the whole morning, nothing. Not since the thing started. I got him up. I got Trump's feed. I got Trump's Twitter feed up. Not since everything has started. Nothing. No comments by him. So you got stuff to see. Now, because I got my laptop up here on C-SPAN, and I have it on the TV on C-SPAN, so I can have the audio in the background. It's harder for me I need another device. I got 2 tablets,
Mr. Mueller, I want to...
a laptop and the TV, but I'm not looking at, say, Fox or even MSNBC. I'm on C-SPAN because I have it up in a split screen, and I get to use C-SPAN more, than I can.
They produced the dossier, so they paid Steve.
So, I don't know what Fox is saying, but I guess I could get another. I could go on the phone when I get off of you, I guess. Because that's what I'm using. But I use the phone to look at Facebook too. Because I just like the way it looks. But I'll go look and see. I haven't seen what Fox or anybody else has been saying. In the break, when I was washing dishes, I was just shocked. MSNBC, they're all touting how this was a big failure for the Democrats. That's what they were saying. I said, really? I don't feel that way at all. In other words, MSNBC, and I'll say it loud enough so you guys can hear it out there, while Trump's digging his mouth, Nunes is speaking.
main actor at Fusion GPS, the president of the company,
one of
the owner of the
huh?
company, is a guy named Glenn Simpson who's working for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Glenn Simpson.
So it's
you know how
it's
many
really
times
amazing.
Glenn Simpson met with
Yeah.
Natalia
So we're
Westphal?
gonna get to see
Myself?
how they respond to all of this.
What
So
surprised
it's
you
very
that
interesting.
the Clinton campaign
I'm amazed, but I want to make it clear to everybody I have a totally different take on this than even MSNBC. I think the Dems have done a good job, very credible job, a methodical job of laying out their case. I think they've done it in a way where the American public can see it. I think Mueller did a good job. I think he's obviously incapacitated to a degree, but I don't think that affects his credibility at all. In fact, I think the exact opposite. I think that most people are going to say, look at this man busting his ass. He's done. He's retired, still doing this, and he don't have to go through this. So that's the way I view it. So I totally take it different than Ari Melber and all the other MSNBC people. I don't view it as a loss at all, and I've been happy with the process. So there we go.
Real or not real?
There we go.
Was there any concern that there could have been disinformation that was going from the Kremlin into the Clinton campaign and then being fed into the FBI?
As I said before, this is an area that
Oh, really?
I cannot speak to.
Is that because you're...
No, it was hot when I went outside. I went out to the studio and turned the air conditioner on out there. I got the air conditioner on the studio, so I can just come out there later. It'll be cool.
And Zaman Ahmed joined your team. Were you aware that Bruce Orr, Department of Justice top official,
Yeah, my ass ain't having no heat stroke, so don't worry. I did walk down to eat yesterday, but I Ubered back. And today I'm not even going far at all. I'm prepared to work in the house at my desk.
In July of 2017, he was given $10,000 in cash in Israel. Do you know who gave him that cash?
Again, that's not a question such as that should go to the FBI or the department.
But it involved your investigation.
It involved persons involved in my investigation.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, it's ridiculously hot.
We will stand in recess for 5 or 10 minutes. Please, folks, remain your seats. Allow the director, Mr. Zebley, to exit the chamber.
I just feel good. I guess, plus I went to bed like at 9 o'clock. So. I don't know if I can. Well, it's not like I had shit to do. It's more or less, some of mine is adjusted to her schedule. So it ain't like I had something to do. I didn't have shit to do. I was done. I was actually tired earlier because I had been working around the house. So. That's right. Now they're going to, now we're going to an intermission, you guys.
It's live coverage of the House Intelligence.
Yeah, well, I gave you all the salient points, and so you can just wait and see what the backlash is. again, that's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to see that. There'll be some major backlash. I can't even predict. I have no idea. No idea. All right, bye-bye. All right, you guys, got an update. I get calls from my outlets, my political folks who are also watching this, some of whom I can bring on the air, some of them I can't. So that was one. Discussing and giving, I actually was giving them updates. They're at meetings. Some of the calls I'm getting, believe it or not, are people that I'm updating. They're at meetings and they want to know my assessment of what has happened so far. That's what you see me offering. I wanted you to hear in the background as I talked about that. Yeah, I was talking about my assessment, which so far has been different than what I'm observing at MSNBC and those places when I go to look at them. I'm finding different stuff than them, and so that's an interesting thing to me. It just is. I'm not sure why that is. It's certainly not a failure. To me, it's not a bad day. I don't know if they're watching. To me, it's not been a bad day. I think Mueller has been effective. I think it's not about being a grandstanding, and that's part of what's made it so effective. So I'm actually happy. Yes, he has been plotting and slow at sometimes, and to me that adds to his credibility. He gives the impression of someone struggling with health issues, and I feel like he's actually coming off courageous just to be here. So, wow. I'm very pleased with it. You're going to see some stuff. Right now I'm looking for some music to play for you. We're going to look for some Love Shadow. Play some music.
Spring smiles are drifting into April. They say it might summer to me. There's nothing left to keep me away.
Intermission for the Mueller's testimony before the Intelligence Committee. What happened?
Your letter lies falling on the table. My clothes lie folded on the chair. I'm usually gone by now, and I'm not able to forget the sweet moonlight in your hair. And if you're moving for your bride, and if you want me to stay, and if you take this all on behind, and if you say I can stay, I'll stay. Oh, white mist has risen up the river, and all the birds have taken to the sky. I have no urgent message to leave you. I have no reason to be otherwise. The moonlight has left us both alone.
Checking Trump's Twitter feed, nothing so far. President's amazingly quiet, come on. He's reading tweets. Oh, stop hearing something from Donald.
Fire is burning on the hillside.
Trump's mostly retweeting people. Okay. Here's his latest tweet. I would like to thank the Democrats for holding this morning's hearing. Now after 3 hours, Robert Mueller has to subject himself to shifty shift, an embarrassment to our country. That's it. No other comments. Nothing else from the Donald. What a great day! What's happening, Marvin? Hey, Sarah. Tracy's at work. Stephen Thomas. Hey, Stephen. Look at those three pricks. Lights out the body heat. High stereo. Watching Mueller testimony live. I've been here since 4:30. I was up at 4:30. I think we went live at 5:15. On point all day. It's that kind of a day. I expect to stay tuned in as long as it's happening. I think this is going to be a day to really watch to see what Fox and Friends have to say. So far, I don't agree with MSNBC's assessment of everything either. So I'm out there on my own. I have a totally different take on it. Again, the big problem, the issue today, Mueller's showing some of his health issues. I think he's also showing how courageous he is to be there and to be testifying. Still on intermission, I'm bringing you some all-free music from Love Shadow while we prepare for the return. I'm not sure when they're returning. I got it up on my laptop, TV screen, so we'll see. Thank you for being here with me, everybody. Coming back in. Let's see what's happening. You gotta give long time, give enough time for the old men to take a peek. I got up at 4:30. I'm feeling really good. Here we go. Get fresh hair and stay fat. Devin Nunes is disgusting. back into the room. Lights out the body heat pack stereo live, Mario Hemsley. Mueller testimony live, watching it with you. Got C-SPAN up. That's all great music we've been playing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Swallow, your opinions.
Thank you. Director Mueller, as a prosecutor, you would agree that if a witness or suspect lies or obstructs or tampers with witnesses or destroys evidence during an investigation, that generally that conduct can be used to show a consciousness of guilt. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Let's go through the different people associated with the Trump campaign and this investigation who lied to you and other investigators to cover up their disloyal and unpatriotic conduct. If we could put Exhibit 8 up. Director Mueller, I'm showing you Campaign Chairman Paul Manafort, Political Advisor Roger Stone, Deputy Campaign Manager Rick Gates, National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, Donald Trump's personal attorney Michael Cohen, and Foreign Policy Advisor George
That's a great
Papadopoulos.
slide.
These 6 individuals have each been charged, convicted, or lied to your office or other investigators. Is that right?
Yes, although I'm looking askance at Mr. Stone because he is he is in a different case here in D.C.
So National Security Advisor Flynn lied about discussions with Russian ambassador related to sanctions. Is that right?
That's correct.
Michael Cohen lied to this committee about Trump Tower Moscow. Is that correct?
Yes.
George Papadopoulos, the president's senior foreign policy advisor, lied to the FBI about his communications about Russia's possession of dirt on Hillary Clinton. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
The president's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, lied about meetings that he had with someone with ties to Russian intelligence. Is that correct?
That's true.
And your investigation was hampered
Oh, well.
by Trump campaign officials' use
Getting
of
what I
encryption
want.
communications. Is
Thank
that
you,
right?
Swalwell.
We believe that to be the case.
You also believe to be the case that your investigation was hampered by the deletion of electronic messages. Is that correct?
It would be, yes. Generally, any case would be if those kinds of communications are used.
For example, you noted that Deputy Campaign Manager Rick Gates, who shared internal campaign polling data with a person with ties to Russian intelligence at the direction of Manafort, that Mr. Gates deleted those communications on a daily basis. Is that right?
I would say I don't know specifically, but within the report, then I support it.
That's right, Director. It's Volume 1, page 136.
Thank you.
In addition to that, other information was inaccessible because your office determined it was protected by attorney-client privilege. Is that correct?
That is true.
That would include that you do not know whether communications between Donald Trump and his personal attorneys, Jay Sekulow, Rudy Giuliani, and others discourage witnesses from cooperating with the government. Is that right?
I'm not going to talk to that.
That would also mean that you can't talk to whether or not pardons were dangled through the president's attorneys because the shield of attorney-client privilege.
No, I'm not going to discuss that.
Did you want to interview Donald Trump Jr.?
I'm not going to discuss that.
Did you subpoena Donald Trump Jr.?
And I'm not going to discuss that.
Did you want to interview the president?
Yes.
Director Mueller, on January 1st, 2017 through 2019, Donald Trump met with Vladimir Putin in person 6 times, called him 10 times, and exchanged 4 letters with him. Between that time period, how many times did you meet with Donald Trump?
I'm not going to...
Let's see if I can find something.
He did not meet with you in person, is that correct?
He did not.
As a result of lies
deletion of text messages, obstruction, and witness tampering, is it fair to say that you were unable to fully assess the scope and scale of Russia's interference in the 2016 election and Trump's role in that interference?
I'm not certain I would adopt that characterization in total. There may be pieces of it that are accurate, but not in total.
But you did state in volume 1, page 10, that while this report embodies factual and legal determinations, the office believes it to be accurate and complete to the greatest extent possible. Given these identified gaps, the office cannot rule out the possibility that the unavailable information would shed additional light. Is that correct?
That is correct. We don't know what we don't know.
Why is it so important that witnesses cooperate and tell the truth in an investigation like this?
Because the testimony of the witnesses goes to the heart of just about any criminal case you have.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and thank you, Director Mueller.
Ms. Stefan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mueller, as special counsel, did you review documents related to the origin of the counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign?
On occasion.
Was the Steele dossier one of those documents that was reviewed?
And I can't discuss that case.
I'm just asking a process question. Have you read the Steele dossier?
And again, I'm not going to respond to that.
You were tasked as special counsel to investigate whether there was collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign associates to interfere with the 2016 election. And the FBI, we know, has relevant documents and information related to the opening of the CI investigation. Were you and your team permitted to access all of those documents?
And again, I can't get into that investigative, what we collected, what we're doing with investigation materials.
Let me ask it this way. Was there any limitation in your access to documents related to the counterintelligence?
Yeah, it's such a broad question. I have real trouble answering.
Did the special counsel's office undertake any efforts to investigate and verify or disprove allegations contained in the Steele dossier?
Again, I can't respond.
The reason I'm asking for the American public that's watching, it's apparent that the Steele dossier formed part of the basis to justify the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. As we know, it was used to obtain a FISA warrant on Carter Page. This is why I'm asking these questions. Did your office undertake any efforts to identify Steele's sources or subsources?
Again, the same answer.
Were these tasks referred to any other agencies?
Again, I can't speak to it.
Did your office consider whether the Russian government used Steele's sources to provide Steele with disinformation?
Again, I can't speak to that.
I understand I'm asking these questions just for the record, so thanks for your patience. Shifting gears here, did any member of the special counsel's office staff travel overseas as part of the investigation?
Yes, but I can't go further than that.
I'm going to ask, to which countries?
And I can't answer that.
Did they meet with foreign government officials?
Again, it's out of our neighborhood.
Did they meet with foreign private citizens?
Again, same response.
Did they seek information about a U.S. citizen or any U.S. citizens?
Again, a territory that I cannot go to.
Thank you for answering on the record. These are important questions for the American public, and we're hopeful that the IG is able to answer these questions. I will yield the balance of my time to the ranking member.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Mueller, I want to go back to, we started off with Joseph Hemsley, who is at the center of this investigation. He appears in your report a dozen times or more. He really is the epicenter. He's at the origin of this. He's the man who supposedly knows about Clinton's emails. You've seen on the screen, the Democrats have continually put up all the prosecutions that you made against Trump campaign officials and others. But I'm struggling to understand why you didn't indict Joseph Hemsley, who seems to be the man in the middle of all of this.
Well, I think you understand that you cannot get into either classified or law enforcement information without a rationale for doing it. And I have said on going to be able to say with regard to Mr. Nixon.
Were you aware of Kathleen Cadillac's involvement, that she had met with Ms. Steele, the State Department official?
And again, I can't respond to that question. It's outside my jurisdiction.
The Carter Page FISA warrant was re-upped 3 times. The last time it was re-upped was under your watch. So were you in the approval process of that last time that the Carter Page warrant was?
Well, I can't speak specifically about that warrant, but if you ask, was I in the approval chain, the answer is no.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill back.
Mr. Castro.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Special Counsel Mueller, for your testimony and for your service to our country. Donald Trump over the years has surrounded himself with some very shady people, people that lied for him, people that covered up for him, people that helped him enrich himself. I want to talk specifically about one of those instances that's in your report. Specifically, let's turn to the Trump Tower Moscow project, which you described in your report as, quote, as a, quote, highly lucrative deal for the Trump organization. Is that right?
I would have to look at the quote from the
Sure.
report if you have it.
Sure, it's on volume 2, page 135. It's described as highly lucrative.
Okay, I have it.
Sure.
I have it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Your office prosecuted Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen was Donald Trump's lawyer, for lying to this committee about several aspects of the Trump organization's pursuit of the Trump Tower Moscow deal. Is that right?
That's right.
According to your report, Cohen lied to, quote, minimize links between the project and Trump, unquote, and to, quote, stick to the party line, unquote, in order not to contradict Trump's public message that no connection existed between Trump and Russia. Is that right?
That's yes. That's correct.
Now, when you're talking about the party line here, the party line in this case...
If I can interject one thing, I should have said at the outset, it was in the report, and consequently, I do believe it to be true.
Thank you. The party line in this case was that the deal ended in January 2016. In other words, they were saying that the deal ended in January 2016 before the Republican primaries. In truth, though, the deal extended to June 2016, when Donald Trump was already the presumptive Republican nominee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The party line was also that Cohen discussed the deal with Trump only 3 times, when in truth, they discussed it multiple times. Is that right?
Also true in the basis for, part of the basis for that plea that he entered for allowing to this entity.
Thank you. And thank you for prosecuting that. The party line was also that Cohen and Trump never discussed traveling to Russia during the campaign, when in truth, they did discuss it. Is that right?
That's accurate.
And the party line was that Cohen never received a response from the Kremlin to his inquiries about the Trump Tower Moscow deal. In fact, Cohen not only received a response from the Kremlin to his email, but also had a lengthy conversation with a Kremlin representative who had a detailed understanding of the project. Is that right?
If it's in the report, that is accurate. Recitation of that piece of the report.
So you have the candidate Trump at the time say he had no business dealings with Russia, his lawyer who was lying about it, and then the Kremlin who during that time was talking to President Trump's lawyer about the deal. Is that right?
I can't adopt your characterization.
Not only was Cohen lying on Trump's behalf, but so was the Kremlin. On August 30th, 2017, 2 days after Cohen submitted his false statement to this committee, claiming that he never received a response to his email to the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin's press secretary told reporters that the Kremlin left the email unanswered. That statement by Putin's press secretary was false, wasn't it?
I can't speak to that.
Although it was widely reported in the press.
Again, I can't speak to that, particularly if it was if it was dependent upon media sources.
But it was consistent with the lie that Cohen had made to the committee. Is that right?
I'm not sure if I could go that far.
So Cohen, President Trump, and the Kremlin were all telling the same lie.
I defer to you on that, but I can't get into the details.
Special Counsel Mueller, I want to ask you something that's very important to the nation. Did your investigation evaluate whether President Trump could be vulnerable to blackmail by the Russians because the Kremlin knew that Trump and his associates lied about connections to Russia related to the Trump Tower deal?
I can't speak to that.
I yield back, Chairman.
Mr. Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Mueller, you've been asking me times this afternoon about collusion, obstruction of justice, and impeachment in the Steele dossier, and I don't think your answers are going to change if I ask you about those questions. So I'm going to ask about a couple of press stories, because a lot of what the American people have received about this have been on press stories, and some of that has been wrong, and some of those press stories have been accurate. On April 13th, 2018, McClatchy reported that you had evidence Michael Cohen made a secret trip to Prague during the 2016 presidential election. I think he told one of the committees in Congress that was incorrect. Is that story true?
I can't go into it.
Got you. On October 31st, 2016, Slate published a report suggesting that a server at Trump Tower was secretly communicating with Russia's Alpha Bank, and I quote, akin to what criminal syndicates do. And do you know if that story is true?
Do not. Do not.
You do not?
No, it is true.
So did you not investigate these allegations which are suggestive of potential Trump-Russia?
Because I believe it's not true doesn't mean it would not be investigated. It may well have been investigated, although my belief at this point is not true.
Good copy, thank you. As a former CIA officer, I want to focus on something I think both sides of the political aisle can agree on. That is, how do we prevent Russian intelligence and other adversaries from doing this again? And after overseeing counterintelligence operations for 12 years as FBI director, and then investigating what the Russians have done in the 2016 election, you've seen tactics, techniques, and results of Russian intelligence operations. Our committee made a recommendation that the FBI should improve its victim notification process when a person, entity, or campaign has fallen victim to active measures of attack. Would you agree with this?
It sounds like a worthwhile endeavor. I will tell you, though, that the ability of intelligence agencies to work together in this arena is perhaps more important than that. And adopting whatever, and I'm not that familiar with legislation, but whatever legislation will encourage us working together by us, I mean the FBI, CIA, NSA, and the rest, it should be pursued aggressively early.
Who do you think should be responsible within the federal government to counter disinformation?
I'm no longer in the federal government, sorry.
But you've had a long career, a storied career, and I don't think there's anybody who better understands the threat that we are facing than you. Do you have an opinion as a former FBI officer?
As to
who should be the coordinating points within the federal government on how to deal with it?
No, I don't want to wade in those waters.
A good copy. One of the most striking things in your report is that the Internet Research Agency not only undertook a social media campaign in the U.S., but they were able to organize political rallies after the election. Our committee issued a report and insight on saying that Russian active measures are growing with frequency and intensity, and including their expanded use of groups such as the IRA, and these groups pose a significant threat to the United States and our allies in upcoming elections. Would you agree with that?
Yes. In fact, one of the other areas that we have to look at is many more many more countries are developing capability to replicate what the Russians have done.
You alluded to making sure all the elements of the federal government should be working together.
That's a
warning. Do you have a suggestion on a strategy
that was a warning.
to counter this disinformation?
Not overarching.
Is this, in your investigation, did you think that this was a single attempt by the Russians to get involved in our election, or did you find evidence to suggest they'll try to do this again?
No, we single attempt, they're doing it as we sit here. And they expect to do it during the next campaign.
Director Mueller, I
Wow,
appreciate
how you like
your
that?
time,
Not a hoax.
indulging us here,
Not
on
a
the
hoax.
committees, and I yield back.
Not
to
a
the
hoax.
ranking member if he
Not
has.
a witch hunt.
I yield back to the chairman.
Mr. Heck. Director Mueller, I'd like to go to the motives behind the Trump campaign, encouragement and acceptance of help during the election. Obviously, a clear motivation was to help them in what would turn out to be a very close election, but there was another key motivation, and that was frankly the desire to make money. I always try to remember what my dad, who never had the opportunity to go beyond the 8th grade, taught me, which is that I should never ever underestimate the capacity of some people to cut corners and even more in order to worship and chase the almighty buck. And this is important because I think it, in fact, does go to the heart of why the Trump campaign was so unrelentingly intent on developing relationships with the Kremlin. So let's quickly revisit one financial scheme we just discussed, which was the Trump Tower in Moscow. We indicated earlier that it was a lucrative deal. Trump, in fact, stood, he and his company earned many millions of dollars on that deal, did they not, sir?
True.
And Cohen, Mr. Cohen, his attorney, testified before this committee that President Trump believed the deal required Kremlin approval. Is that consistent with what he told you?
I'm not sure whether it's Mr. Trump himself or others associated with that enterprise have discussed the necessity of having the input from the state and the Russian government in order for it to go forward successfully.
Isn't it also true that Donald Trump viewed his presidential campaign, as he told top campaign aides, that the campaign was an infomercial for the Trump organization and his properties?
I'm not familiar with that.
And let's turn to Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort. Did in fact your investigation find any evidence that Manafort intended to use his position as Trump's campaign chair for his own personal financial benefit?
I would say there was some indication of that, but I won't go further.
I think you'll find it on page 135 of volume 1. During the transition, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, met with Sergei Gorkov, the head of a Russian-owned bank that is under U.S. sanctions. And according to the head of the bank, he met with Kushner in his capacity as CEO of Kushner Companies to discuss business opportunities. Is that correct, sir?
I'm not certain.
It was
not certain about that. I'll just put it that way.
It was asserted thusly in your report, volume 1, 160, and pages 161 and 162. Your report notes that at the time, Kushner Companies were trying to renegotiate $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion lease of their flagship.
Still haven't heard
building
from his
at 666
chief of
Fifth
staff or
Avenue,
whatever.
Correct?
I'm not familiar with those financial arrangements.
Also on page 162, where Kushner Companies, it was asserted.
He's got to be
that
there for a
applications
reason,
coming
so
through
we
on
still
company.
haven't heard
Eric
from
Prince,
Mueller's
the
chief
supporter
of staff. He had to be there for a
Trump.
reason.
The supporter.
Haven't heard from him yet. Not one peep.
I supported those.
Yes.
Coming
He
up.
met in the Seychelles during the transition with Kirill Dmitriev, who was the head of a sanctioned Russian government investment arm, which had close ties to Vladimir Putin. Correct, sir?
Yes.
Your investigation determined that Mr. Prince had not known nor conducted business with Dmitriev before Trump won the election. Correct?
Well, I defer to the report on that.
Yet it does. And yet Prince, who had connections to top administration, Trump administration officials, met with Dmitriev during the transition period to discuss business opportunities, among other things. But it wasn't just Trump and his associates who were trying to make money off this deal, nor hide it, nor lie about it. Russia was too. That was the whole point, to gain relief from sanctions, which would hugely benefit their incredibly wealthy oligarchs. For example, sanctions relief was discussed at that June 9th meeting in the Trump Tower, was it not, sir?
Yes, but it was not a main subject for discussion.
Trump administration National Security Advisor designate Michael Flynn also discussed sanctions in a secret conversation with the Russian ambassador, did he not?
Right.
So to summarize, Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner, Eric Prince, and others in the Trump orbit all tried to use their connections with the Trump organization to profit from Russia, which was openly seeking relief from sanctions. Is that true, sir?
I'm not sure if I can adopt what you want.
I know, and I further assert that was not only dangerous, it was un-American. Greed corrupts. Greed corrupts, and it is a terrible foundation for developing American foreign policy.
Mr. Ratcliffe, Director Mueller, given your constraints on what you're able or allowed to answer with respect to counterintelligence matters or other matters that are currently open and under investigation, you're not going to be able to answer my remaining questions. So I thank you for your courtesies in the answers that you have given to my prior questions. And I do thank you for your extraordinary career and record of service, and yield the balance of my time to the ranking member.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ratcliffe and Mr. Mueller. Let me associate my words with Mr. Ratcliffe. A few more questions. I want to clean up a little bit about the Eric Prince Seychelles meeting. So Eric Prince testified before this committee that he was surveilled by the U.S. government and that information from the surveillance was leaked to the press. Did you investigate whether Prince was surveilled and whether classified information on him was illegally leaked to the media?
If you say did you or will you?
Well, I know you can't. I know you're not going to join back up in the ranks, but did you were you aware that Prince has made these allegations that he was surveilled? He's concerned that there were leaks about this surveillance. Did you make any referrals about these leaks?
I can't get into discussion on it.
Okay. Also General Flynn, I know you came after the leak of his phone call with the Russian ambassador. Your time at FBI, it would be a major scandal, wouldn't it, for the leak of the National Security Advisor and anyone?
I can't adopt that hypothesis.
Did your report name any people who were acting as U.S. government informants or sources without disclosing that fact?
I can't answer that.
On volume 1, page 133 of your report, you state that Konstantin Kilimnik has ties to Russian intelligence. This name came up quite often today. The report omits to mention that Kilimnik has long-term relationships with U.S. government officials, including our own State Department.
I can't get into that.
I know it's not in the report, but
different posture by the Republicans in this part too. Have you noticed different posture on the Intelligence Committee? Much more calm, a bit more respectful and courteous, noticeably more respectful and courteous than say Jim Jordan or was it Corden from Texas, Jim Jordan, and Gates, the guy from Florida. He's an ass.
You were asked this earlier about Trump attorney John Dowd, that pieces of his phone call were omitted from the report. It was what Mr. Dowd calls exculpatory evidence. Are you concerned about?
I'm not certain I would agree with that characterization.
Okay.
I think I said that before.
Yes. An American citizen from the Republic of Georgia, who your report misidentifies as a Russian, claims that your report omitted parts
Alexa.
of a text message
Alexa.
by Michael Cohen
Living
about
room
stopping
off.
the flow of compromising tapes of Donald Trump. In the omitted portions, he says he would not know what the tapes actually showed. Was that portion of the exchange left out of the report for a reason?
No, we got an awful lot in the report, but we did not get every intersection or conversation and the like. So I'm not familiar with that particular episode you're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Welch.
Director Mueller, did you find there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia?
Well, we don't use the word collusion. And the word we usually use is but not collusion. But one of the other terms that fills in when collusion is not used. In any event, we decided not to use the word collusion inasmuch as it has no relevance to the criminal law arena.
The term is conspiracy that you prefer to use?
That's conspiracy, exactly right.
You help me, I'll help you.
Thank you.
It's an agreement. Thank you. And in fact, you had to then make a charging decision after your investigation, where unless there was enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, you wouldn't make a charge, correct?
Generally, that's the case.
But making that decision does not mean your investigation failed to turn up evidence of conspiracy.
Absolutely correct.
And in fact, I'll go through some of the significant findings that your exhaustive investigation made. You found, as I understand it, that from May 2016 until the end of the campaign chairman, Mr. Manafort, gave private polling information to Russian agents, correct?
Right.
And
you speak in the microphone.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. And your investigation found that in June 2016, Donald Trump Jr. made an arrangement to meet at Trump Tower along with Jared Kushner and others, expecting to receive dirt on the Hillary Clinton campaign, correct?
Correct.
And you found in your investigation that on July 27th, candidate Trump called on Russia to hack Hillary Clinton's email, something that for the first time they did about 5 hours later, correct?
That's correct.
And you also found that on August 2nd, Mr. Manafort met with a person tied to Russian intelligence, Mr. Committe, and gave him internal campaign strategy, aware that Russia was intending to do a misinformation social media campaign, correct?
I'm not certain of the tie there.
But the fact of that meeting, do you
The
agree?
fact of the meeting took place is accurate.
In your investigation, as I understand it, also found that in late summer of 2016, the Trump campaign, in fact, devised its strategy and messaging around WikiLeaks releases of materials that were stolen from the Democratic National Committee, correct?
Is that from the report?
Yes, it's according to Mr. Gates.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And you also talked earlier about the finding in your investigation that in September and October of 2016, Donald Trump Jr. had email communications with WikiLeaks, now indicted, about releasing information damaging to the Clinton campaign, correct?
True.
So I understand you made a decision, prosecutorial decision, that this would not rise to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But I ask if you share my concern. And my concern is, have we established a new normal from this past campaign that is going to apply to future campaigns, so that if any one of us running for the U.S. House, any candidate for the U.S. Senate, any candidate for the presidency of the United States, aware that hostile foreign powers trying to influence an election,
I'm gonna give a
has no
summary.
duty to report that to the FBI or other authorities?
Well, I hope.
Go ahead.
I hope this is not the new normal, but I fear it is.
And would in fact have
I'm
the
gonna do a
ability,
summary.
without fear of legal repercussion, to meet with agents of that foreign entity hostile to the American election?
I'm sorry, what is the question?
Is that an apprehension that you share with me?
Yes.
And that there would be no repercussions whatsoever to Russia if they did this again. And as you stated earlier, as we sit here, they're doing it now. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right.
Do you have any advice to this Congress as together what we should do to protect our electoral system and accept responsibility on our part to report to you or your successor when we're aware of hostile foreign engagement in our elections?
I would say the basis, the first line of defense really is the ability of the various agencies who have some piece of this to share information, share expertise, share targets, and use the full resources that we have to address this problem.
Thank you, Director Mueller. I yield back.
Mr. Maloney.
Mr. Mueller, thank you. I know it's been a long day, and I want to make clear how much respect I have for your service and for your extraordinary career. I want you to understand my questions in that context, sir. I'm going to be asking you about Appendix C to your report, and in particular, the decision not to do a sworn interview with the President. It's really the only subject I want to talk to you about, sir. Why didn't you subpoena the President?
Well, at the outset, after we took over and initiated the investigation.
If I could ask you to speak on that.
Of course. At the outset, after we took over the investigation and began to pursue it, obviously one of the things we anticipated wanting to accomplish, and that is having the interview of the President. We negotiated with him for a little over a year, and I think what you reverted to in the appendix lays out our expectations as a result of those negotiations. But finally, when we were almost towards the end of our investigation, and we had little success in pushing to get the interview of the President, we decided that we did not want to exercise the subpoena powers because of the necessity of expediting the end of the investigation.
Excuse me, did you?
I was going to say, the expectation was if we did subpoena the President, he would fight the subpoena, and we would be in the midst of the investigation for a substantial period of time.
Right, but as we sit here, you've never had an opportunity to ask the President in-person questions under oath, and so obviously that must have been a difficult decision. And you're right, Appendix C lays that out, and indeed, I believe you described the
great job by
interview as vital. That's your word.
Great job.
And of course, you made clear you had the authority and the legal justification to do it. As you point out, you waited a year. You put up with a lot of negotiations. You made numerous accommodations, which you lay out so that he could prepare and not be surprised. I take it you were trying to be fair to the President. And by the way, you were going to limit the questions when you got to written questions to Russia only. And in fact, you did go with written questions after about 9 months, sir, right? And the President responded to those, and you have some hard language for what you thought of those responses. What did you think of the President's written responses, Mr. Mueller?
Certainly not as useful as the interview would be.
In fact, you pointed out, and by my count, there were more than 30 times when the President said he didn't recall, he didn't remember, no independent recollection, no current recollection, and I take it by your answer that it wasn't as helpful. That's why you used words like incomplete, imprecise, inadequate, insufficient. Is that a fair summary of what you thought of those written answers?
That is a fair summary.
Oh!
I presume that comes from the report.
And yet, sir, and I ask this respectfully, by the way, the President didn't ever claim the Fifth Amendment, did he?
I'm not going to talk to that.
Well, from what I can tell, sir, at one point it was vital, and then at another point it wasn't vital. And my question to you is, why did it stop being vital? And I can only think of 3 explanations. One is that somebody told you you couldn't do it, but nobody told you you couldn't subpoena the President. Is that right?
No, we understood we could subpoena the President.
Rosenstein didn't tell you, Whitaker didn't tell you, Barr didn't tell you you couldn't.
We could serve a subpoena.
So the only other explanation, well, there's 2 others, I guess. One, that you just flinched. That you had the opportunity to do it, you didn't do it. But sir, you don't strike me as the kind of guy who flinches.
I hope not.
Well, then the third explanation, I hope not too, sir. And the third explanation I can think of is that is that you didn't think you needed it. And in fact, what caught my eye was page 13 of volume 2, where you said, in fact, you had a substantial body of evidence. And you cite a bunch of cases there, don't you, about how you often have to prove intent to obstruct justice without an in-person interview. That's the kind of nature of it. And you use terms like a substantial body of evidence, significant evidence of the president's intent. So my question, sir, is did you have sufficient evidence of the president's intent to obstruct justice, and is that why you didn't do the interview?
There's a balance. In other words, how much evidence you have to satisfy the last element against how much time are you willing to spend in the courts litigating the interview with the president.
And in this case, you felt that you had enough evidence of the president's intent.
We had to make a balanced decision in terms of how much evidence we had compared to the length of time it would take.
Sir, because I have limited time, you thought that if you gave it to the Attorney General or to this Congress, that there was sufficient evidence that it was better than that delay.
Should we state that again?
Well, that it was better than the delay to present the sufficient evidence, your term, of the president's intent to obstruct justice to the Attorney General and to this committee. Isn't that why you didn't do the interview?
The reason we didn't do the interview is because of the length of time that it would take to resolve the issues attendant to that.
Thank you, sir.
He's being careful with what he says, and that's what I like about it.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Oh, I
Chairman.
like her.
And Director Mueller, thank you so much for being a person of honor and
Yes.
integrity. Thank you for your service to the nation. We are certainly better for it. Director Mueller, I too want to focus on the written responses that the President did provide and the continued efforts to lie and cover up what happened during the 2016 election, where the President
We're about
answers
almost
submitted
5 hours, 40 minutes total. Something like that.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, they were. Were these all the answers your office wanted to ask the President about Russia interference in the 2016 election?
No, not necessarily.
So there were other
Yes.
questions that you wanted to answer. Did you analyze his written answers on Russia interference to draw conclusions about the President's credibility?
No, it was perhaps one of the factors, but nothing more than that.
It was one of the factors. So what did you determine about the President's credibility?
And that I can't get into.
Director Mueller, I know based on your decades of experience, you probably had an opportunity to analyze the credibility of countless witnesses, but you weren't able to do so with this witness.
Every witness, particularly a leading witness, one assesses the credibility day by day, witness by witness, document by document. And that's what happened in this case. So we started with very little, and by the end we ended up with a fair amount. Yeah, fair amount.
Thank you. Well, let's go through some of the answers to take a closer look at his credibility, because it seems to me, Director Mueller, that his answers were not credible at all. Do some of President Trump's incomplete answers relate to Trump Tower, Moscow?
Yes.
For example, did you ask the President whether he had at any time directed or suggested that discussions about Trump Moscow project should cease?
Should what?
Cease.
Do you have a citation?
Yes, we're still in Appendix C, Section 1-7.
The first page?
Says the President did not answer whether he had at any time directed or suggested that discussions about the Trump Moscow project should cease, but he has since made public comments about this topic.
And the question was?
Did the President, let me go on to the next question. Did the President fully answer that question in his written statement to you about the Trump Moscow project ceasing? Again, in Appendix C.
And can you direct me to the particular paragraph you're referring to?
It would be Appendix C-C1, but let me move forward. 9 days after he submitted his written answers, didn't the President say publicly that he, quote, decided not to do the project, unquote? And that is in your report.
I'd ask you if you would to point out the particular paragraph that you're focusing on.
We can move on. Did the President answer your follow-up questions? According to the report, there were follow-up questions because of the President's incomplete answers about the Moscow project. Did the President answer your follow-up questions either in writing or orally? And we're now in volume Volume 2, page 150 through 151?
No.
He did not. In fact, there were many questions that you asked the president that he simply didn't answer. Isn't that correct?
True.
And there were many answers that contradicted other evidence you had gathered during the investigation. Isn't that correct,
Yes.
Director Mueller? Director Mueller, for example, the president in his written answer stated he did not recall having advanced knowledge of WikiLeaks releases. Is that correct?
I think that's what he said.
But didn't your investigation uncover evidence that the president did in fact have advanced knowledge of WikiLeaks public releases of emails damaging to his opponent?
And I can't get into that area.
Did your investigation determine, after very careful vetting of Rick Gates and Michael Cohen's, that you found them to be credible?
Now we found the president to be credible?
That you found Gates and Cohen to be credible in their statements about WikiLeaks?
No, those areas I'm not going to discuss.
Okay. Could you say, Director Mueller, that the president was credible?
I can't answer that question.
Director Mueller, isn't it fair to say that the president's written answers were not only inadequate and incomplete because he didn't answer many of the questions, but where he did, his answers showed that he wasn't always being truthful?
I would say, generally.
Generally. Director Mueller, it's one thing for the president to lie to the American people about your investigation, falsely claiming that you found no collusion and no obstruction, but it's something else altogether for him to get away with not answering your questions and lying about them. And as a former law enforcement officer of almost 30 years, I find that a disgrace to our criminal justice system. Thank you so much. I yield back to the chairman.
Mr. Christian Murphy.
Director Mueller, thank you for your devoted service to your country. Earlier today, you described your report as detailing a criminal investigation, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Director, since it was outside the purview of your investigation, your report did not reach counterintelligence conclusions regarding the subject matter of your report.
That's true.
For instance, since it was outside your purview, your report did not reach counterintelligence conclusions regarding any Trump administration officials who might potentially be vulnerable to compromise or blackmail by Russia, correct?
Those decisions probably were made in the FBI.
But not in your report, correct?
Not in our report. We advert to the counterintelligence goals of our investigation.
And over 5 hours and 40 minutes of viewing today.
Let's talk about one administration official in
You've been watching
particular,
it.
namely President Donald Trump. Other than Trump Tower Moscow, your report does not address or detail the president's financial ties or dealings with Russia, correct?
Correct.
Similarly, since it was outside your purview, your report does not address the question of whether Russian oligarchs engaged in money laundering through any of the president's businesses, correct?
Correct.
And of course, your office did not obtain the president's tax returns, which could otherwise show foreign financial sources, correct?
I'm not going to speak to that.
In July 2017, the president said his personal finances were
They may
off
have them,
limits
but
or
can't talk
outside
about
the
it.
purview of your investigation, and he drew a quote-unquote red line around his personal finances.
They have it,
Were
but
the
can't talk about it.
president's personal finances outside the purview of your investigation?
I'm not getting into that.
Were you instructed by anyone not to investigate the president's personal finances?
No.
Mr. Mueller, I'd like to turn your attention to counterintelligence risks associated
You
with
still haven't
lying.
heard from Mueller's chief of staff at all, nothing.
If they lie
Not
about
a
their
peep.
interactions with foreign countries, correct?
True.
For example, you successfully charged former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn of lying to federal agents about his conversations with Russian officials, correct?
Right.
Since it was outside the purview of your investigation, your report did not address how Flynn's false statements could pose a national security risk because the Russians knew the falsity of those statements, right?
I cannot get into that mainly because there are many elements of the FBI that are looking at different aspects of that issue. Correct.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's a big
As you
deal.
know, in Volume 2 of your report,
That's
Donald
a
Trump
big
repeated
deal.
5 times in one press conference, Mr. Mueller, in 2016, quote, "I have nothing to do with Russia." Of course, Michael Cohen said Donald Trump was not being truthful because at this time, Trump was attempting to build Trump Tower Moscow. Your report does not address whether Donald Trump was compromised in any way because of any potential false statements that he made about Trump Tower Moscow, correct?
If that's right. If that's right.
Director Mueller, I want to turn your attention to a couple other issues. You've served as FBI director during 3 presidential elections, correct?
Yes.
And during those 3 presidential elections, you have never initiated an investigation at the FBI looking into whether a foreign government interfered in our elections the same way you did in this particular instance, correct?
I would say I personally know, but the FBI quite obviously has how do you defense an attack such as the Russians undertook in 2016.
Now, Director Mueller, is there any information you'd like to share with this committee that you have not so far today?
Well, that's a broad question. And it'd take me a while to get an answer to it, but I say no.
Mr. Mueller, you said that every American should pay very close attention to the systematic and sweeping fashion in which the Russians interfered in our democracy. Are you concerned that we are not doing enough currently to prevent this from happening again?
I'll speak generally and what I said in my opening statement this morning, and here that no, much more needs to be done in order to protect against this intrusion, not just by the Russians, but others as well.
Thank you, Director.
We have 2 5-minute periods remaining. Mr. Nunes and myself. Mr. Nunes, you are recognized.
Mr. Mueller, it's been a long day for you, and you've had a long, great career. I want to thank you for your long-time service, starting in Vietnam, obviously in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
He's good at kissing ass. He's been kissing Trump's ass for so long. He's a natural ass kisser.
Doing something you didn't have to do. You came here upon your own free will. And we appreciate your time today. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Mueller, I want to close out my questions, turn to some of the exchange you had with Mr. Welch a bit earlier. I'd like to see if we can broaden the aperture at the end of the hearing. From your testimony today, I gather that you believe that knowingly accepting foreign assistance during a presidential campaign is an unethical thing to do.
And a crime.
And a crime.
Circumstances, yes.
And to the
and a crime given certain circumstances.
And to the degree that it undermines our democracy and our institutions, we can agree that it's also unpatriotic.
True.
And wrong.
True.
The standard of behavior for a presidential candidate, or any candidate for that matter, shouldn't be merely whether something is criminal. It should be held to a higher standard. You would agree?
Yeah, I will not get into that because it goes to the standard to be applied by other institutions besides ours.
I'm just referring to ethical standards. We should hold our elected officials to a standard higher than mere avoidance of criminality, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
You have served this country for decades. You've taken an oath to defend the Constitution. You hold yourself to a standard of doing what's right.
I would think so.
I would hope.
Yes, that's what my answer.
I think we can all see that. And befitting the times, I'm sure your reward will be unending criticism. But we are grateful. The need to act in an ethical manner is not just a moral one, but when people act unethically, it also exposes them to compromise, particularly in dealing with foreign powers. Is that true?
True.
Because when someone acts unethically in connection with a foreign partner, that foreign partner can later expose their wrongdoing and extort them.
True.
And that conduct, that unethical conduct, can be of a financial nature if you have a financial motive or an illicit business dealing. Am I right?
Yes.
But it can also just involve deception. If you are lying about something that can be exposed, then you can be blackmailed.
Also true.
In the case of Michael Flynn, he was secretly doing business with Turkey, correct?
Yes.
And that could open him up to compromise that financial relationship.
I presume.
He also lied about his discussions with the Russian ambassador, and since the Russians were on the other side of the conversation, they could have exposed that, could they not?
Yes.
If a presidential candidate was doing business in Russia and saying he wasn't, Russians could expose that too, could they not?
I leave that to you.
Well, let's look at Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson for the Kremlin, someone that the Trump organization was in contact with to make that deal happen. Your report indicates that Michael Cohen had a long conversation on the phone with someone from Dmitry Peskov's office. Presumably the Russians could record that conversation, could they not?
Yes.
And so if candidate Trump was saying, I have no dealings with the Russians, but the Russians had a tape recording, they could expose that, could they not?
Yes.
That's the stuff of counterintelligence nightmares, is it not?
No, it has to do with counterintelligence and the need for a strong counterintelligence entity.
It does indeed. And when
they got that out
was
of it,
revealed that there were these communications notwithstanding the president's denials, the president was confronted about this and he said two things. First of all, that's not a crime. But I think you and I have already agreed that that shouldn't be the standard, right, Ms. Mueller?
True.
And the second thing he said was, why should I miss out on all those opportunities? I mean, why indeed? Merely running a presidential campaign, why should you miss out on making all that money? Was the import of his statement. Were you ever able to ascertain whether Donald Trump still intends to build that tower when he leaves office?
Is that a question, sir?
Yes, were you able to ascertain, because he wouldn't answer your questions completely, whether or if he ever ended that desire to build that tower?
I'm not going to speculate on that.
If the president was concerned that if he lost his election, he didn't want to miss out on that money, might he have the same concern about losing his re-election and missing out on that money?
Speculation.
Full review report by me to follow.
The difficulty with this, of course, is we are all left to wonder whether the president is representing us or his financial interests. That concludes my questions. Mr. Menez, do you have any concluding remarks? Dr. Mueller, let me close by returning to where I began. Thank you for your service, and thank you for
Yes, Kathy, I thought it was good. Full
in your report and have elucidated
summary to
today.
come, to follow.
Tell a disturbing tale of a massive Russian intervention in our election, of a campaign so eager to win, so driven
Thank you,
by
my
greed
Facebook
that it was
friends, for
willing
being
to
part of
accept
it.
the help of a hostile foreign power in a presidential election decided by a handful of votes in a few key states. Your work tells of a campaign so determined to conceal their corrupt use of foreign help that they risked going to jail by lying to you, to the FBI, and to Congress about it, and indeed, some have gone to jail over such lies. And your work speaks of a president who committed countless acts of obstruction of justice that, in my opinion, and that of many other prosecutors, had it been anyone else in the country, they would have been indicted. Notwithstanding the many things you listed in your report, there were some questions you could not answer given the constraints you were living under. You would not tell us whether you would have indicted the president, but for the OLC opinion that you could not. And so the Justice Department will have to make that decision when the president leaves office, both as to the crime of obstruction of justice and as to the campaign finance fraud scheme that individual one directed and coordinated and for which Michael
Smoking sativa since 5 o'clock this morning.
You will not tell us.
See, this is sativa. You stay alert.
Since it
I've
is
been
our
smoking weed
responsibility to
since
determine the proper remedy
5
for the
a.m.
conduct outlined in your report.
You want to
Whether
debate
we
me
decide
about
to
the
impeach
effects
the
of
president in the
marijuana?
House or we do not, we must take any action necessary to protect the country while he is in office. You would not tell us results or whether other bodies looked into
Cassie, I'm going to add that to my summary. What to look for next, okay?
You would not tell us
I'm adding it to
whether
the
the
next part two.
counterintelligence investigation
What to look for.
revealed whether people still serving within the administration pose a risk of compromise and should never have been given a security clearance. So we must find out. We did not bother to ask whether financial inducements from any Gulf nations were influencing U.S. policy, since it is outside the four corners of your report, and so we must find out. But one thing is clear from your report, your testimony, from Director Ray's statements yesterday. The Russians massively intervened in 2016, and they are prepared to do so again.
They sure
in
are.
voting that is set to begin a mere 8 months from now. The President seems to welcome the help again, and so we must make all efforts to harden our elections infrastructure, to ensure there is a paper trail for all voting, to deter the Russians from meddling, to discover it when they do, to disrupt it, and to make them pay. Protecting the sanctity of our elections begins, however, with the recognition that accepting foreign help is disloyal to our country, unethical, and wrong. We cannot control what the Russians do, not completely, but we can decide what we do. And that this centuries-old experiment we call American democracy
I think it's like a waste
is
of
well
time.
I know, it's not, I've been watching since 5 a.m.
Yeah, I know. Here today.
It's my...
I would like to introduce you and Mr.
Bless you.
You have the critical questions, you don't answer.
Everyone else, please.
Well,
remain
I
seated.
know, but see, but he got enough of the other ones there. I just, Mario Hemsley, I'm going to be doing a summary immediately to follow. Need to follow summary, my summary of this Mueller testimony. I've been watching. I got up at 4:30 this morning. I've been watching the TV since 5 a.m., smoking some good sativa throughout. So I've watched all of it. So, and even in the little break, I watched a little MSNBC, and I didn't agree with what they were doing. So I'm going to have a summary coming up right after this. Going to take a break, run to the head, do what you got to do, and I'll be right back to talk about it. Thank you, Facebook friends, for being there. This has been unprecedented. Pack Stereo, I broke it into 2 broadcasts. The first was 3 hours and 40-some minutes. This one was 2 hours and 17 and a half minutes, and we've been part of it all day long, watching history. I must say, for me, it's been a wonderfully enlightening look at an interesting topic. I have learned a lot. I now have a lot more to say about the whole issue, context of all of that. And so I'll take a break, and we'll be coming back in just a few. Thank you very much for being part of the broadcast. Pack Stereo TV, Mario Hemsley. Peace.